The film starts during the Civil War in the 1860s, a time when the United States was in conflict. The main character, Jonah Hex, is in the army. His boss, Quentin Turnbull, orders him to burn down a hospital in North America. Jonah refuses and confronts Turnbull. In their fight, Jonah accidentally kills Turnbull's son, Jeb. Turnbull is enraged. He captures Jonah and his family, killing Jonah's wife and child while Jonah watches, tied up. To hurt Jonah even more, Turnbull burns his cheek with a hot iron, disfiguring him, and leaves him tied up. After this terrible event, Jonah vows to never forget and seeks revenge on Turnbull. A few days later, the Crow tribe, Native Americans, find Jonah still tied up and very sick. One of their wise elders performs a special ceremony that heals Jonah and gives him the strange ability to talk to the dead. Once Jonah is better, he starts looking for Turnbull. But he learns that Turnbull died in a fire, making it impossible for Jonah to get his revenge. So, Jonah becomes a bounty hunter, killing people for money. One day, Jonah goes to a small town called Stunk Creek to deliver 3 bodies to the sheriff who hired him. But things go wrong. The sheriff refuses to pay Jonah and plans to kill him. Posters in town offer $500 for Jonah's capture or death. Jonah fights back against the sheriff and his men. Near the city, something important is happening. A big train carrying new weapon parts for the American army is attacked by a group of men on horseback. They scare everyone on the train, including the soldiers, and threaten to blow up the train if the soldiers fight back. The robbers separate the passenger cars and set off a big bomb, blowing up the train to steal the weapons. They want to use these weapons against the United States. The leader of this group is Turnbull, who faked his death to escape from Jonah. As time went on, news of the train robbery reached President Grant. Lieutenant Grass told the president that Turnbull was alive and planned to use the stolen weapons to attack the United States on July 4th, the country's 100th birthday. Worried about this, President Grant sent Lieutenant Grass to find Jonah, hoping he could help stop Turnbull and his men. Meanwhile, Jonah was in a bar where he had to defend himself by killing an attacker. After that, he visited a woman named Lila Black, a prostitute who liked him and invited him to stay. Later, as Jonah was getting ready to leave, Grass and his soldiers came into the room. They told Jonah that President Grant wanted him back in the military. At first, Jonah didn't want to go, but when Grass said Turnbull was still alive, Jonah changed his mind. He agreed to join the United States military to go after Turnbull. Grass took Jonah to a military base where one of the train robbers was being held, but the man was dead. This made it hard to find Turnbull. However, Jonah could talk to the dead. Using this power, he brought the robber back to life for a short time to ask him about Turnbull. The robber said he was hired by Jonah's old boss, Slocum, not Turnbull. After this, the robber died again. In Charleston, South Carolina, Turnbull was meeting with Adelman Lusk, who had been secretly helping him. Turnbull asked about a hidden stash of dangerous weapons kept by the government. Lusk didn't want to tell him because he didn't agree with Turnbull's plan to use the weapons against America. But Turnbull threatened Lusk until he gave up the location of the weapons. Turnbull and his men quickly went to the secret place where the American weapons were kept. When they got there, Turnbull found a chemical ball that could cause a huge explosion. This ball was made by Eli Whitney, a famous inventor. Meanwhile, Jonah went to an underground fight arena looking for Slocum, who was now running the operation. Jonah demanded to know where Turnbull was. Slocum laughed at Jonah, saying Turnbull was dead and mocking Jonah's past, including Jeb's death. Angry, Jonah pointed his gun at Slocum. When Slocum's men tried to stop him, Jonah quickly knocked one of them out and threw him into the fighting pit, where a monster-like gladiator was waiting. This creature attacked anyone who came close. Before leaving, Jonah rescues a dog from a group of men who were mistreating it. The chaos that follows causes the underground fight arena to catch fire, as someone had lit a torch, leading to an uncontrollable blaze. Later, the rescued dog goes with Jonah to Jeb's grave. Jonah digs up Jeb and temporarily revives him. Jonah apologizes for killing Jeb, and Jeb acknowledges his own mistakes. Jeb then reveals Turnbull's hiding place, Fort Resurrection, a military location. Before putting Jeb back in his grave, Jonah is reminded that all the people he has killed are waiting for him in the afterlife. With the knowledge of Turnbull's location, Jonah visits Smith, who runs a weapon shop. Jonah gets ready for his confrontation with Turnbull, and Smith gives him a powerful weapon that can eliminate 10 people with a single shot. As night falls, Jonah arrives at Fort Resurrection, Turnbull's hiding place. He finds that Turnbull is building a dangerous weapon using the stored explosives. Soon, Jonah confronts Turnbull. However, Turnbull's associate, Burke, intervenes and fights Jonah. Burke shoots Jonah and knocks him down, thinking Jonah is defeated, and leaves him behind. Despite his injuries, Jonah stays conscious and escapes into the nearby forest. The next morning, Turnbull takes command, telling his crew to move all the weapons onto a ship to prevent Jonah from disrupting their base again. He also plans to capture someone close to Jonah to use as a hostage. Jonah, badly hurt by Burke's attack, is close to death and has strange visions of battling Turnbull. Eventually, he loses consciousness. Meanwhile, Turnbull starts his attack by launching cannonballs and using a special chemical explosive, causing massive destruction and killing many people in a small town. President Grant, upon learning of the attack, becomes deeply concerned, especially since Jonah had not reported Turnbull's location. At the same time, Burke visits a brothel, kidnaps Lila, who is close to Jonah, and takes her hostage. In the forest, Jonah was critically injured and close to death. The Crow Indians found him again and performed a healing ceremony, reviving him. Once he was better, Jonah hurried to Washington, D.C., to warn them about Turnbull's plan to attack the Capitol. That evening, Jonah sneaked into Virginia Pier, where Turnbull was getting ready to sail to D.C. Turnbull was with Adelman, thanking him for his help. But then, Turnbull betrayed and killed Adelman, even though Adelman begged for mercy. Jonah found Turnbull's ship, but Burke ambushed him. They had a fierce fight below the deck, unnoticed by Turnbull's crew. Jonah skillfully cornered Burke, forcing him to smash his head into the ship's propeller, killing him. Using his special power, Jonah brought Burke back to life for a moment, only to kill him again by setting him on fire. Shortly after, Jonah watched Turnbull, who was telling his crew about his plan to destroy the United States. Jonah wanted to secretly shoot Turnbull with his rifle. But Turnbull noticed Jonah and revealed that he had taken Lila as a hostage. So, Jonah surrendered and allowed himself and Lila to be captured. Turnbull still planned to sail to Washington, D.C., and destroy the U.S. Capitol. During the hostage situation, Lila made a surprising move. She managed to free herself and told Jonah that her real name was Tallulah. She untied Jonah, and together they started planning to defeat Turnbull. At the same time, U.S. warships arrived to stop Turnbull's plan. But Turnbull used chemical bombs to easily attack and destroy the warships. Meanwhile, Jonah and Tallulah started fighting Turnbull's crew on the ship, trying to stop those firing at the U.S. warships. It was tough because Turnbull confronted them, and they all ended up in the engine room. Tallulah was also in danger, facing someone about to attack the U.S. warships. Turnbull then ordered the cannons to fire at Washington, D.C. Just as the chemical bombs were about to be launched, Jonah made a brave move. He threw his axe to stop the firing and then fiercely fought Turnbull. Jonah managed to push Turnbull into the cannon's machinery, where he got trapped. Jonah then saved Tallulah, and they jumped into the sea. At that moment, the chemical bomb exploded, causing the ship to blow up and taking Turnbull and his crew with it. The next day, President Grant rewarded Jonah for saving the United States from Turnbull's attack. Grant offered him money and a job as a sheriff. But Jonah declined the job, saying he would be available if the country needed him but did not want the position. After meeting with the president, Jonah decided to leave with Lila. This is how the film ends. So the moral of the story is, never mess with a guy who can talk to the dead and has a soft spot for dogs, because he might just save the world with an axe and some serious grudge.